Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here to see me. It's really an honor. My name is Zach, and I'm the Communications Director for the Alabama Water Institute. We are excited to see such a great turnout at our symposium, and we are ready for our keynote speaker, as I know you are, a man who I don't think needs any introduction based on the capacity and the people that are in this room. So, without further ado, I hand the microphone over to Mr. James Spann.
All right. Let me just say up front that I was wired to teach third grade science, okay? This is not my genre of audience, all right? In fact, I just finished a third grade group at Cherokee Bend Elementary School in Mountain Brook. It was outstanding. And I can read a crowd. Some of you saw that opening slide and you've checked out, okay? Because I am going to talk a little bit about communication. I know what you're thinking. I have nothing to do with that. Oh, yeah, you do. Everybody in here has a phone. Everybody in this room is a communicator. Everybody in here can communicate with the masses. And what I want to do today is simply go through 2 case studies, and that's it. I have learned a lot in my old age, okay? A lot. But I want to do 2 case studies. Both of them do involve water. The first one really involves water. But before we do that, this is what television looked like when I was a child, all right? This is how it started. This is H.D. Bagley. He worked in Huntsville at WHNT, and he was really the first crop of those on the air that understood the science. But this is where we are today, all right? Anybody ever get on Facebook or the YouTubers or the TikTokers? We live in a very strange world today. I mean, this is what people are seeing today. And listen, let me just say this. My role in life is to mitigate loss of life when we have high impact weather events. And that's it. That's why I'm here. Why me? I don't know. But again, I think there is a way to communicate risk and message risk during flood events and tornado events, and we'll talk about that as we go. For those that don't know, I moved to Tuscaloosa when I started 5th grade. Did anybody grow up here in Tuscaloosa? All right, so I went to a school called Verner Elementary School when I was in 5th grade. And this is me when I was in high school. My high school was called Tuscaloosa High School. This is me in 1973 when I started my senior year. And yeah, I had some hair back then. I mean, that's a bad look. That is a really bad look, okay? And just so you'll know my backstory, when I moved here, when I started 5th grade, it was me and my mom. And that's it. I have no siblings. I am probably the only child in this whole room, all right? If we haven't, nope, we got a few. Okay, well, I feel better now. This is awesome. We have other only children here. But we moved here, and it was just me and my mom. My father abandoned me and my mom when I was 7. The man walked out one night and never came back. He never said goodbye. Have a nice life. See you later. He was gone. He never paid 1 red cent of child support. And really quickly, I learned what it was like to be a low-income, struggling person, a child. And I will say this, one good thing came about as a result of my father leaving. I had to go to work when I was 7. I don't think we had child labor laws back then. And I am not good at anything I do, but hey, I'll work harder than anybody else in this room to accomplish a goal, and that work ethic came about as a result of my background. But that's me in high school. We built an illegal radio station up in the projection room of the auditorium. The principal thought it was, he didn't know it was illegal, but the local television station did a story and they interviewed me. Soon after that, I would go to work for Burt Bank. Burt had a commercial radio station here right down 15th Street, right in the tornado path in 2011. And that's me in 1974 when I was in high school. I worked there for 5 years. I paid my way through college working at that radio station. How much money do you think I made an hour? $1.90 an hour. That's how inexpensive tuition was back in the 70s. I could pay for college working at that rate. Of course, I lived at home. And my real passion in life was weather. And my first major, just so you'll know, was electrical engineering here on this campus. I was an electrical engineering major at the University of Alabama. And I just thought weather would be a hobby. I was never told weather was a viable career option, never. But I would learn that it was, and I would go to finish in meteorology at Mississippi State University. And I started doing the weather on television here in 1978, went to Birmingham in 1979. By the way, that's no hair, that's a comb over. I have never had hair. I worked in Birmingham for 5 years. I was transferred to Dallas, and that is a real comb over right there. I mean, I had no hair when I went to Dallas. And I'm glad that I got a chance to be out of the market. I think everybody needs to get away from home for, if nothing more, than a few years, and I had the chance to do that. I spent some time in Dallas, and I met some amazing people in the weather enterprise that changed my life. And some of those folks are still good friends with me today. But working in a top 10 market in my 20s was just a dream. But my wife and I wanted to come back. Listen, I was born here. I'm from a small town. And you've never heard of the place where I'm from. I am from Greenville, Alabama. You've never heard of that. If you ever drive to Mobile or Gulf Shores, you drive through Greenville. We moved here from Greenville when I started 5th grade. And I was born here, I will die here, I'll be buried here. And my wife and I wanted to come back. Our whole family is here. So the opportunity came up to came back in the late 80s. This is me at Channel 6 in Birmingham in 1989. And then in 1996, the new channel was formed, ABC 3340. I made the transformation in 96. They gave me the freedom to be me. And for those that know me, I walk to the beat of a different drummer. I'm an outlier. I wanted to do long-form severe weather coverage. I never had the chance at these other places, and it was just the culture of the day. But the owner of ABC 3340, when they started it, gave me full license to take off any programming I wanted, anytime I wanted to, for severe weather. And that was a game changer. In fact, 25 years ago tomorrow, we had an F5 tornado in Birmingham, April 8th, 1998. And that changed everything that night. But I've probably been there too long. I mean, I've been there like 26 years. And when I leave here today, I'll go there. The main studio is in River Chase. And I think I've really been here too long when you start to see this stuff going on here. This is terrifying. Too much alcohol is a really bad thing, okay? It's a really, really, really bad thing. So I want to, and again, yes, I want to talk about communication, but understand, I don't care what you do here. If you're in academia, if you're in research, if you're a practitioner like me, this applies to everybody in this room, all right? Because we're all working toward the same goal of mitigating loss of life during high-impact weather events, including flash flood events. So just hang in there with me. But I want to ask you, how do you consume weather information? Everybody in here, you want to check the weather. By the way, got a call earlier this morning from Coach Saban. I do weather support for the coach, which is always interesting. You never know what kind of a mood he's in, but he's trying to get a practice in before the rain. But you want to check the weather. What do? What's the first thing you do? Grab your what? Phone. Yeah, we lost that battle, long ago. Everybody's going to look at their phone, some type of app, and it used to be for years and years and years the television weather. The old school weather we did on television was number one here, but that faded a long time ago. So apps are the way. And this is for just regular weather days like today. But what about on a day where there's going to be a high impact severe weather event? For the first time, by the way, this is research from the Weather Company. This is IBM's weather business. And for the first time ever, the app is now displaced local television for severe weather. Having said that, to defend us, most people are watching the long-form coverage on their mobile app. By the way, I did an interview about apps here last year. I didn't know the title was going to be that, but it's pretty much what it is. So many people have dependence on apps, and some of these apps are just horrible. How do apps get that information that you see? Where does it come from? Does it come from a person in most cases? Absolutely not. The data is derived from what? Model output, raw model output. And let me tell you what, you use raw model output, that's going to get you in a bad spot. And but again, it is what it is. And again, I'm not here to talk about apps. I'm here to talk about communication during high impact events. So, by the way, on the social media side, that's a whole different topic for another day. I have to live in that world. And it's not a good world. It's not good for your mental health. There's positives, there's negatives, and sometimes we focus on the negatives. But having said that, I do reach a lot of people, groups through social media that would never watch television. Anybody here on TikTok? I have to use TikTok to reach young demographics. They will never ever watch us on television, but if you establish a relationship with them there, they learn who you are, they will learn how to find you on their phone. And again, my job is to mitigate loss of life during high impact events, whether it is a young person, an old person, every people group. But again, you want to see what kind of a world I live in, check my Facebook page sometimes. It's brutal. I'll post a picture of a sunset and they're fighting about politics within 5 minutes. I've been told I should have been aborted by a coat hanger on this stuff. It's brutal. But again, that's not why I'm here today. I want to focus on messaging. And this is what people are seeing now on TikTok and YouTube. And some of this stuff is outrageous. And I do think that we have to establish ourselves as professionals and set ourselves apart. I think what we really need to stress, it's our seals. Listen, if you're looking for weather information, I would encourage you to find especially somebody that's got that AMS certified seal. I've been a member of the AMS for a long, long time. I'm also a member of the National Weather Association. Is anybody a professional meteorologist in here? I'm trying to see who's in the room. We got a few. I'm just saying, the AMS certified seal, to get that, that's based on your academics. It's based on a peer-reviewed study of your work and a rigorous exam. It's basically our bar exam. And if you see that, then you know that the person is a professional. Not that they're right every time, we're not. But you know that the information is credible. And I really think we need to establish some type of digital certification for those that are communicating weather across social networks and the digital side. AMS certified is mainly for television meteorologists, but again, we encourage people to look for that as you seek for information. So for those that don't know me, this is what I'm known for. I've been on television here, as you saw, since World War I. And when most people think of me, they think of the guy on television when there are tornadoes flying around here. This was the Cullman tornado, April 27, 2011, multiple vortex. EF4 tornado came through downtown Cullman. This is pretty much what I do. This was 2 years ago. This was not a good day. This was March 25th, 2021. Anybody recall that day? And listen, we have severe weather events often here. Our tornado season is November through May. And this is March 21st of 2021, 2 years ago. And this is one I will remember because the particular tornado that I'm showing in that radar image hit my house 5 minutes after that was captured on the air. This was terrifying. This is the most distracted day I've had in my career. And I knew my wife was okay. She was home by herself because we have a tornado shelter that's rated for an EF5 tornado. But you wonder, everybody's human. Do you have a house? You know, and goodness gracious, it was distracting. This is the tornado that hit our house. This is a rain-wrapped EF3. It just came through a neighborhood in Birmingham called Eagle Point. And this was a very densely populated part of Birmingham. This video was taken from Lee Branch. Publix is on the right, US 280 is on the left. And it was a success in this particular situation because we had no loss of life, despite that tornado coming through a very densely populated part of the city. But this is a classic Alabama tornado. This is what they look like. We do not have the sexy tornadoes like Kansas, okay? I mean, all the chasers love Kansas and Oklahoma because guess what? They don't have rain-wrapped tornadoes. They have LP storms, not HP storms like we have. They have no hills. They have no trees. Most of the tornadoes happen during the day. Many of ours happen at night. But about 10 minutes after the video was taken, that's the one that got us. This is an EF3. And by the way, a lot of people say, well, it's no big deal. It's an EF3. Yes, it is. Every single tornado is dangerous, even an EF0. And by the grace of God, the roof stayed on the house. I'm going to find out the guy that put that roof on that house and buy him a Chick-fil-A meal or something. I mean, if the roof would have gone, we would have been in a hotel for 8 months. So we were able to live in the house while they did the repairs. This is right below the TV station, same tornado. And thank goodness he stops. Goodness. Whoa. This is a rain-wrapped EF3 crossing US 31. You'll see the power flashes, and it kept on going right down Highway 119. I have no idea why there was so much attention on me after this thing. My favorite one is that tabloid over there on the far right. It says, what happened to James Spann's house and who's his wife, Karen? It's just like, come on, man. It's like, this is nuts. So the reason I'm here is pretty simple. I'm going to do 2 case studies, and that's it. If you've ever been to a talk I do at an AMS conference or an NWA conference, you know that my talks are pretty simple and to the point. I don't like to be long-winded. I want to go through 2 case studies and talk about communication. The first case study is October 6th of 2021. So we had a high-impact flash flood event in the Birmingham metro. And let me just say this, tornadoes get all the attention. They get all the attention. I don't know why floods don't get the attention. We have more deaths from flash flooding than tornadoes. And for some reason, and I'm guilty as anybody else, I guess. You know, we get focused on the tornado stuff and we just don't put enough emphasis on this. But this was a really interesting localized event. This was not especially widespread. I'll show you the setup in terms of weather here in just a second. But it was pretty tough. And we're fortunate that the death toll was not higher than it was that night. But we had just Horrific flooding situation in parts of the southern part of Birmingham, Vestavia, Hoover, Pelham. And this is right where the TV station is located. The TV station is in River Chase, which is south of Birmingham near the Jefferson-Shelby County line. This is a rain gauge from River Chase near the TV station. Look in the lower right, that's a 24-hour rain total. That's no mistake, and that's valid data. A foot of rain, 12.12 inches with this event, all in 24 hours. And quite frankly, a lot of that came down in 6 hours. This is a look at the setup in the upper air. This is at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet off the ground. We had a cold core upper low. This is a Rex block pattern here. We had this cold core upper low that was stalled out north and west of the state. That's favorable for severe weather. And typically we see that in November, not necessarily October. Normally, October is the driest month of the year here. So the event was a little bit of an anomaly. And at the surface, we had, by the way, this is the skew-T from Shelby County, the sounding from Shelby County. The precipitable water was almost 2 inches, which is extreme for October. The low levels, we had a very strong southeast flow coming right into the storms, and we had an outflow boundary sitting right over the Birmingham Metro that served as a focus for the back building of the storms. We had constant back building of these things, and it just did not stop. It rained and rained and rained with tremendous rain amounts for hours and hours and hours. This is the radar loop coming from Birmingham, and if you look near the radar site here is the Shelby County Airport, just north of the radar site. You see that constant back building. And again, I was obviously in the middle of it because I was at work that night, and this was a night event, which makes it more complex. Daytime flood events are bad, nighttime flood events are just horrible. And that band extended up into northwest or northeast Alabama. Parts of Marshall County had some real problems that night as well. This was a flash flood emergency issued by the National Weather Service in Birmingham. And there's a big debate in the weather enterprise about these emergency messages. Flash flood emergencies and tornado emergencies. We have some concern that people will not pay attention to flash flood warnings now. If it's not a flash flood emergency, then it's okay. Every warning is a big deal, but it was clear that an emergency had to be issued by the National Weather Service in Birmingham. And let me chase a rabbit. What we do is not enough. My whole life, all I know is physical science. That's all I know. That's all I know. I don't understand communication. I don't understand being on television or being on the Facebook or the Twitter or any of this stuff. But guys, I do weather, okay? And we don't know anything about human behavior. And we have to have an integrated, interdisciplinary approach to be successful. And we learned that from 2011. We have to integrate social science into physical science to be successful. And that's true for everybody in here. You have to understand the people that you serve. And if you don't, you won't be successful. But that's the actual flash flood emergency, and obviously that was right on top of the Birmingham Metro, parts of Jefferson and Shelby counties. And again, with a foot of rain, it was rough. That's River Chase near the television station. We're in the business section of River Chase. There is a residential section a little to the west of the TV station. So we went long form, and I normally don't go long form for flash flooding, but we believe the circumstances warranted that. And we blew off primetime programming, and we stayed on the air for 6 hours doing this. And I think we need to do this a little more often, and I'm very hesitant to do this because it costs the station money. They lose revenue. We don't run ad messages during these hours and hours of coverage. But as I started to see all of the messages coming in through the social networks and through our spotters and everything else, I knew this was a genuine flash flood emergency. And we stayed on the air for a long time. This is Miles Butler and Latin Hill. They were killed when their car was washed away on River Chase Parkway right down the street from the television station during this flash flood emergency. This is not acceptable for anybody in here, all right? These were both 23-year-old young adults and boyfriend, girlfriend, and we don't know the circumstances. We know where they died, but it's the classic flash flood death. They drove through water running across the road. They didn't know the depth of the water, and that decision cost them their life. And I am not blaming them, I'm blaming me. Apparently our messaging was not good enough that night. This should not have happened. And what we have to do is go back and look at everything and try and figure out what went wrong. This is Stormy Hernandez. She lived in Arab. You guys ever been to Arab? You guys don't get out much, do you? Hey, I know this state better than anybody in this room. I don't know much about anything but weather and Alabama geography and microclimates here. That's what I do. She was 18 years old. Her car was swept away. Same issue. She was driving through water of unknown depth, and she was swept off the road, and her body was recovered later. And this is Jaylee Cheek, 4 years old. Same story. And listen, if you can't understand the importance of what we do by looking at her face, then you got a problem, all right? This is what we all have to be better in this room. If you're in research, you've got to support us better as practitioners. As practitioners, we have to go dig into the research data and look at social science messaging data to see what we did wrong this night. But it was a case where she was in the car with two adults, and somehow the two adults got out of the car and they tried to save her, but they couldn't. The car was swept away as they're trying to pull her out, and her body was found the next morning. So looking back on this, obviously something did not work. And listen, I fully understand there will always be loss of life. We can't save everybody. There's going to be a certain subset of people that are not going to do anything, and we can't help them. And the social scientists say, don't focus on them, focus on the ones that want to help. And I think in this case, I think one of the big issues with this event, we focused too much. There was a stinking tornado watch in effect, and I don't think it needed to be in effect. And listen, the people at the Storm Prediction Center, those are my heroes. John Hart, Rich Thompson, Roger Edwards. They are our Army Rangers, our Navy SEALs in severe local convective storms out at SPC. And they put up a tornado watch. I don't know who issued it. I don't care, but I think we had too much attention on the fact that we're under a tornado watch. And we didn't emphasize the flash flood danger enough. And we have to be bolder in our messaging, but I think it was a total distraction on this night. And forget this night. You prep people for this, not the night that it happens. You start prepping people days, months, and years in advance. And we have to start doing that now. Turn around what? Don't drown. That's the kind of stuff that we have to message. We have to get that up in people's head. It has to be front of mind. All these things that we say, there's a reason for that. But I consider that night a failure because we had this type of loss of life. And this was a hydrology event. So that's case number one. Let's go to case number two. Anybody here April 27, 2011? All right, many of you were not here. So let me go through this. And by the way, in this event, this is more of a tornado type situation, not a hydrology event like case number one. So this is a look at the radar from April 27, 2011. You're looking at graphic violence. Graphic violence. If you are not a meteorologist, it might look like a bucket of spilled paint to you. But if you are in any way, shape, or form meteorologically inclined, you can see the violence of the day. You will have a day like this maybe once every 40 years. Okay, this is not the first time in my life we've had a day like this. This is number two. But that's just terrifying. And I don't like to look at this. I don't sit around and look at this. This is 12 years ago. We're coming up on the 12th anniversary. But this is the one everybody talks about. We had a supercell thunderstorm that got on the ground near Newton, Mississippi. Tornado. It stayed down. The supercell stayed intact all the way to the mountains of North Carolina. Now, the first tornado lifted just north of Birmingham. That's the one that came through here. And then a second tornado got down, hit Webster's Chapel and some of the East Alabama communities and went over into Georgia. But hey, guys, this is just one of 62. And yes, we should focus on that. I understand it. I moved here when I started fifth grade. I worked at that little radio station on 15th Street, right across from Forest Lake. I know the culture in this city better than most anybody else in this room. And it's a tragedy, but there were so many others that happened on this day. This is a map of all 62. And again, I can tell you a story about almost every one of those tornadoes. We had 3 EF5s with this event. 3. You might have one in your whole life. And we had 3 in one day. 2 were side by side, those 2 purple lines in northwest Alabama. The first one came through Smithville, Mississippi. The second one came through Hackleburg and Phil Campbell, Alabama. The third EF5 in DeKalb County. Anybody ever been up there? What's the mountainous range in DeKalb County? What is it? Lookout Mountain above Fort Payne. And everybody says, oh, we've got mountains here. We don't have tornadoes here. Yes, you do. Every little excuse you've got about not having tornadoes, that's not true. And we had a series of 4s, 11 of these things. The red lines are 4s. This is the one that came through here. And I don't have any joy in doing this. And I have great concern. Over the last year, it seems like the storm chasing community has gotten out of hand. Not all of them. Some of them are disciplined. They know safety. They know what they need to do. But you got these cowboys coming into these situations where somebody's going to get killed. We've already had loss of life in the chaser community. We've got to stop that. Don't you dare go out and try and shoot video of the tornado if there's one nearby. It's going to get you killed probably. And I see the trend coming. People are going out there trying to get YouTube video views and get $50 in Google AdSense money. It's not worth your life. Life is a series of decisions. And your object in life is to make more good decisions than bad ones. And it's disturbing how many people are getting out here and doing this. And I know what you're thinking. Well, why are you showing that? Well, by golly, this video came from two men that have been trained for 12 years. If you want to do this, come to training. Let's go. Come to spotter training, okay? They've been doing it for 12 years. And John Brown and Mike Wilhelm, and they are there because they have the right heart. They want to help us. And we've learned through social science studies that if you see a tornado through video like that, you'll do something. If you see radar, you don't do anything. And so that helps us, and they wanted to help us. But again, that's remarkable. You're seeing buildings being lofted here. This is terrifying. Parts of buildings, roofing, shingles, glass, nails, tree limbs, dead animals. Most of this stuff fell from the sky over Birmingham. It was absolutely terrifying for people there. Parts of people's lives from Tuscaloosa falling from the sky in Birmingham. This is an upper end EF4. A lot of people were mad at us. They said, no, man, this is an EF5. You didn't see the damage. Well, yes, I did. I know this place. And the damage in Tuscaloosa was consistent with an EF4 on the enhanced Fujita scale. I knew Dr. Fujita. Of course, his scale was adjusted after his death based on modern engineering practices. But I will say this, I do believe out around Hurricane Creek, there was a spot of EF5 damage out there. I think that might need to be reviewed at some point, but it's really no big deal. What does it matter? It was an EF4 when it came through here. So some numbers on the outbreak itself, we had 62 tornadoes and 252 people died. Hey, again, inexcusable for anybody in here. You got it? This can't happen. These were precious people that died. Some were my age, some were yours. Every ethnicity, city, urban, country, it doesn't matter. I've almost memorized every single name. And I know their stories. I know a lot of their surviving family members. And it's very motivating for me, okay? We had 2 rounds of storms. For those that were not here that day, we had a morning round, and quite frankly, we didn't expect it to be that bad in the morning. 5 people were killed, and we had 250,000 people with no power in the morning. And let me just say this, we did not expect that. Numerical weather prediction didn't handle it well. We're not as good as we think we are. Humility is missing in this science. We have lost it. We become a bunch of know-it-alls. We don't know it all. There's so much. As I get older, I know how much we don't know. There is so much to learn. And if you work in research or academia in this room, I'm so thankful for you. God bless you for helping us, because we have to learn. You've got to learn something every day. That's what I teach these young interns. You've got to learn something every single day. Yeah, the evening round, we knew that would be bad. This was advertised days and days in advance. And the warnings were so good. I'm telling you, people say it must have been hard issuing these warnings. No, it wasn't. A 3rd grader could have issued these warnings. The hooks, the correlation coefficient drops on dual polarization radar. Well, actually, we didn't have CC back then, but the velocity couplets, the video that came in, it was easy. Hey, you want to issue some hard warnings? How about a QLCS nighttime event? Quasi-linear convective system, embedded thunderstorm and tornadoes within a line of storms that last for 2 or 3 minutes. Good luck with that. That's our weak point, not these strong, violent tornadoes like that. This is Danielle Downs. She was 2 weeks away from graduating the University of Alabama. 2 weeks away from graduating. She wanted to be a social worker. She planned on moving to Florida. She was killed at 31 Beverly Heights, right down the street. 31 Beverly Heights, okay? She lost her life that day, as did Will Stevens. Will is a friend of Danielle's from high school. Now, Will attended Stillman College. He was a baseball player at Stillman. And they were high school friends. They wanted to ride out the storm together along with Lauren Brown. All 3 of these young people lost their life at 31 Beverly Heights. You know what I do? I drive by 31 Beverly Heights a lot. I'll stop and I'll think about these 3 lives that were lost on this day. Yeah, obviously everything is different now, but by golly, I know exactly where they died. And I know Lauren's mom, Ashley Mims, she lives down in Wetumpka. We had a tornado threat a few years ago, and she posted this to me. And she said, of all days to have bad weather, it's Lauren's birthday. But maybe if people will remember the faces that we lost on April 27, 2011, maybe they'll take it more seriously. And I said, can I post this publicly? And she said, sure. And I did. And by golly, I think people responded to that because later that evening, we had a tornado in Jacksonville, Alabama. There's a college there. Now, they were on spring break, but I don't care. A lot of students were still there, and that's a sizable town. An EF3 went right through that college town, and nobody died that night because I think they got that message. And I'm so thankful for the survivors of these tornadoes that are willing to help us message these events. They know the pain, they understand the seriousness of the situation, and they are of great help. James Spann is a bag of hot air, blah, blah, blah. You know, people have heard enough of me, but they'll respond to this, okay? So this is Miss Minnie Ackland from Tuscaloosa. Everybody said she was the kindest woman, had the kindest heart. She was killed when her car was lofted. Why was anybody driving in these tornado warning polygons? And we think she just didn't hear the message. And I'm not blaming Miss Minnie, I'm blaming me, okay? Me. There's something wrong here. We did something wrong in the messaging in this situation. This is Angel Stillwell. She's a sixth grader at Pleasant Valley School. She lives at Knighton's Crossroads. You don't even know where that is, but I do. I drive through there all the time. It's between Gadsden and Piedmont in East Alabama. I've been to Pleasant Valley School so many times I probably own bricks in the building. That memorial marker is still there. She was a sixth grader. She lost her life April 27th, 2011 at her home in Knighton's Crossroads. This is Haley and Mikey Kreider. They attended Concord Elementary School. Hey, I was there yesterday seeing the third grade. I've been going to Concord Elementary for so long. I've had generations come through these programs I do in schools. Their mom was killed also April 27, 2011. Everybody says Miss Bessie Brewster had the best smile in the neighborhood in Pratt City, a retired registered nurse, a retired RN. They said her smile would light up a room. She lost her life April 27, 2011, as did Jonathan and Justin Doss. They lived in Cordova. You guys ever been to Walker County? Y'all got to get out more. Cordova was hit twice that day, 2 times. They had a tornado early in the morning. The boys survived the morning tornado. They did not survive the second one that came through about 4:30 or 5 o'clock that afternoon. And let me just say, I'll chase a rabbit here. I probably made somebody in this room really mad. I mean, I probably, excuse the expression, pissed you off because I've cut off some basketball game or football game you're trying to watch on television, and here I come with a tornado warning for Walker County, Alabama. You're thinking, well, who lives there? That's out in the country. Don't cut off my basketball game. I've got 3 words for you if I've made you mad cutting off some event on television because of a tornado warning. Guess what those 3 words are? I don't care, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't care. I mean, if you get mad about that, that's your problem and not mine. And listen, so many local television stations across the country, oh, if there's a tornado in the metro, in the big city, they're live, local, late breaking, the Weather Authority, we've got you covered. The minute it gets out in the rural areas, they go back to Freak of the Week or whatever's on television. Shame on them. What you're doing, you're telling people that if you live away from a city, your life is not important. That's absolute insanity. I don't play that game. And the day they make me play that game, I'll just go leave and do it on my own. But they lost their life in Cordova from the second tornado. This is Al and Angie Sanders. They lived in Shoal Creek Valley in St. Clair County. They were home with their 3 daughters. The 3 daughters lived. Al and Angie lost their lives that day. Carrie Lowe was a nurse. She left behind a husband and a newborn. She died in Pleasant Grove on 12th Street. One of her last social media messages is quite haunting, very haunting. This is where she died, 12th Street in Pleasant Grove. And you know, I can just read this crowd. I can sense that a lot of you think, well, that's never going to happen where you live. Well, probably not. Tornadoes are relatively rare, but it can. Everybody's got an excuse. Tornadoes always split and go around my neighborhood because of this hill here and this creek over here, and my grandmama says they always turn right. No, they don't. Tornadoes are steady state, violent, destructive vortices that don't do that. Yeah, terrain has a little impact with the smaller tornadoes, but not with these. And by the way, there were some family members that lived in that house on 12th Street in Pleasant Grove. This is her son, the newborn today, and he's doing fine. That's Carrie's sister-in-law. This is Shane and Jennifer Hallmark. They live in Ruth, Alabama, Marshall County. Ari Hallmark is the child. Ari was in kindergarten at the time this happened. This photograph was taken before that, but she was in kindergarten. She was 6. And Shane and Jennifer were killed. Ari lost Shane and Jennifer, 2 grandparents, and a cousin, all in the same house. 5 caskets, 1 family. I think the Hallmark story might be the defining moment of this whole tragedy. This is Ari today. She's a beautiful young woman, and she's doing fine. She went through some rebellion and anger. We all do. I would. But she knows that she's here to serve other people. And this is, I'll stop here. I could do this all day. I'll stop here. This is Ashley Harrison. She was 2 weeks away again from graduating. An only child just like me from Dallas. And her boyfriend was Carson Tinker. Carson was the long snapper for the University of Alabama football team. And she lost her life April 27, 2011. She was lofted. And hey, when they found her, she was still alive. She had a pulse. They got her down here to DCH. And by the way, the people at DCH, they were heroes. They treated over 1,000 patients down here that night. No water pressure, no commercial power. And the nurse was desperately trying to clean Ashley up to get her into surgery. When you're lofted, you're caked, you're impaled. It's horrible. And as they were trying to clean her up, she died, and she didn't get into surgery. And the nurse had to take her down to the morgue. And the university delayed graduation until later in the year. This is Dave and Darlene Harrison. This is Ashley's parents. Hey, if you can't see the pain in your eyes, you're not human. Everybody in this room has to have empathy to do this successfully. And again, whether you're in academia, research, practitioner, we got to stop this. We've got to. The physical science is there. I'm not here to sell books. I wrote a book. I had to. If I didn't write that book, I'd be haunted every day for the rest of my life. Real quickly, I know I got to stop. I'm almost done. I wanted to share a couple of things we've learned about what happened April 27, 2011. And by the way, I didn't talk about this for 6 months. I didn't want to. I had to go through phases of grief. These are my people that died. They died on my watch. I went through anger and depression, and that's not me. Anybody that knows me, that's not me. I'm a positive ball of energy all the time. But I needed to go through those phases. And 6 months after that, I decided, let's roll up our sleeves and let's fix it. What's the number one reason people died April 27, 2011? What is it? Everybody in here ought to know. I preach it all the time. The number one reason people died April 27, 2011, that. I always hear that siren. No, you don't. Where did this come from? There are people, honestly, in this city and in this state that believe they're going to hear a siren that is outdoors in their house before a tornado strikes during a raging storm. That's insanity. And that mentality has killed more people than anything else in my life. That's it. Outdoor sirens were a product of, goodness, World War I. What year is this? And here we are still using these things. And listen, and if there's any one place where me and the people of Alabama have a disagreement, it's this. Everybody gets their back arched over this. So I love those things. People think they're sexy or something. I don't understand it. I don't get it. They're killing people. But let me say this, they do serve a purpose. There is a purpose for them being there. Sirens reach a limited number of people where? Outdoors. Not in your house, not in your office. Outdoors, that's it. And even there, it's a limited number of people. And, you know, I figured it out the next year. We had an event during the pre-dawn hours on the 23rd of January, 2012, the next year. And I don't need to see Christina's face. I can see it. I can close my eyes and I can see her face. This was an EF3 that came through the communities of Center Point and Clay, northeast of Birmingham. And she was a 16-year-old student at Shades Valley High School. Brilliant IB program. Whole world in front of her. The father said the family didn't hear the what? Siren. Come on! That's what I'm done with. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to climb these poles, take them down, and burn them. That way you know that you will not hear them. Okay? And we've got to move on past that. And I think we're finally starting to get some traction. A lot of communities have decommissioned them. It's expensive. Heck, man, take the money that you're spending on these sirens and buy everybody what they need in their home, and you know what that is. And I'm going there in a minute. It's that. Weather radio. I'm not going to embarrass anybody in here and say, how many of you have one? I'm not going to do that. But if I do that, I would imagine that probably less than 5% of you would raise your hand. You don't have a weather radio because I always hear the siren. Gosh, I sound preachy, don't I? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come sounding preachy today, but hey, this is my passion. Do you understand that? Everybody in this room has a passion about something, and this is mine. And I'm tired of people losing their life on my watch because of this. So what is that? NOAA, weather, radio. Thanks for playing. Man, third graders are good. Man, they're just like, you get it's dead. It's a dead house in here. Y'all must be tired. So, you can afford that $30 radio. Listen, there are a lot of people in this state that cannot. I understand poverty in the state better than most. I've seen it. I know it. I work in a lot of these areas. A lot of folks can't afford a $30 weather radio. We've got to get them in the hands of those that can't afford them, okay? But you can afford that $30 weather radio, so you're going to go buy one today. Alabama's tornado season is when? November through May. What month is this? Yeah. November through May. You got it? November through May. Don't come to me in Thanksgiving and Christmas. We never have tornadoes at Christmas time here. Yes, we do. That's the middle of the season. But our biggest issue, it's reaching people with the warnings. And so many people have no idea that tornadoes are happening. And that's how my wife got the warning 2 years ago. That's what got her in the shelter. She don't watch me. I mean, she's heard enough of me. And that thing's going to wake you up. It will wake you. I don't care how sound you sleep. That will wake you up, okay? Weather radio. Please consider getting one of these things. Your phone comes number 2. Wireless emergency alerts. And I'm not going to get into apps. We talked about that before. But every phone sold in the United States comes with wireless emergency alerts. And we've learned a lot of people in Alabama have turned them off. In Alabama, you get 3 types of WIA messages, basically. Number 1, tornado warnings. Number 2, high-end flash flood warnings, like the event we had in October of 2021. And what's the third one? Amber alerts. We've learned a lot of people here have turned off their WIA messages on their phone because they don't want to receive Amber alerts. What's the matter with you? If is a child missing, you don't want to help the parents. I mean, I don't understand this, guys. So please go get on the phone now, go into settings, notifications, go down to emergency alerts and turn them on. That's the loud tone out. Apps cannot do that. Apps cannot make that loud tone out. The only thing that can do that, it's WIA. And so please consider having those on. You're going to get the tornado warnings, the high-end flash flood warnings, and yes, you're going to get Amber alerts, and you're going to help look for a child if that's the situation, okay? So that's your phone. Now, number 2 reason people died is this. Shame on me. I dare you to go watch the hours of April 27, 2011 coverage. It's on YouTube. The live coverage, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Jason Simpson was with me in the studio. That man was a hero. I would not want anybody else in that room other than Jason. We were born to be in that room on that day. But between the two of us, how many times did we tell people to pop on a helmet? Not once. And I knew it. I knew that that's important. Some of you know that for 18 years this summer, I volunteered in healthcare because I need to learn this. My job is to mitigate loss of life. And I have served as chairman of the board of a large hospital in Birmingham. My hospital is called Grandview Medical Center. And I spend a lot of time with ER docs. And they'll tell you that most people that are seriously injured or that lose their life in a tornado, it's blunt force trauma above the shoulders. And by putting on a cheap bicycle helmet, a batting helmet, a football helmet, a motorcycle helmet, that will greatly, by 60 to 70%, increase your chance of surviving a tornado. And I knew it because, and by the way, this is not just me saying this. There's peer-reviewed work from UAB that prove what I'm saying is right. And by the way, the helmet thing is just not for kids. It's for adults. And for me, it's not a good look. You put a helmet on me, it's like lipstick on a hog. It's a bad look for me. But you know what? That's going to keep me alive. And that's what we're here to do. I mentioned that 25 years ago, tomorrow, it's the anniversary of the April 8th, 1998 F5. This is Nathan Seals. Nathan lived in Rock Creek. You have no idea where that is. I do. It's west of Birmingham. The tornado hit Oak Grove, Rock Creek, Sylvan Springs, McDonald Chapel, Pratt City, Edgewater. Nathan lived in Rock Creek with his family, with 2 siblings and a mom and a dad. He was killed April 8th, 1998, 25 years ago tomorrow. And I will say that his funeral was one of the hardest ones. I try and immerse my life into those that suffer this horrific loss if people allow me to do that. And this is at the Metropolitan Church of God. That's Nathan's casket. Down below you see the parents. That's Matthew and Christy Seals. Matthew's still a good friend. In fact, we're going to lunch Tuesday at Ted's in downtown Birmingham. And I firmly thought, you know, all these years, 25 years of friendship, that I was put in my life to encourage him. He has a broken back. He'll never walk again. No. He was put in my life to encourage me. And the whole family, they were lofted. Can you imagine being lofted in an F5 tornado, an EF5? He has a broken back. The Christy with a punctured lung, a couple of broken legs. Their two siblings you could barely see, beat to a pulp, but they survived. And the treating ER doc said that if Nathan would have had his helmet on, he played baseball. If he would have had his helmet on, he would be alive today. And this was in 1998. I knew it. And in 2011, I didn't say it one time. Shame on me. We believe that over 50 people that died April 27, 2011 would be alive today if they would have had a helmet on. And that's why we stress this stuff. All these crazy things I say, that there's a reason for that based in social science. And one more thing, and I'll stop here. This is the third reason people died, and it's our fault. Blood's on our hands. False alarms, crying wolf. And listen, we don't issue tornado warnings in the private sector, but I'm very close friends with those that do at the National Weather Service, and we're all on the same team. Listen, you have too many false alarms, nobody's going to pay attention. It's crying wolf. The FAR in Birmingham in 2011 was 83. Are you kidding me? 83% of tornado warnings were false alarms. And we heard this all the time in research. I hear tornado warnings all the time, and nothing ever happens. And people don't do anything. And I will say that Kevin Laws, who's the SOO up here, Science Operations Officer for the Weather Service at Birmingham, he's brilliant. Kevin is brilliant. We talked this morning. He rode with me to Fayette. We do things together all the time. He's got that thing down to 30. I never thought it would be 30 in my lifetime. He went back to basic science. They were issuing warnings for these high base storms. LCL heights were way above 1,000 meters. We've never had a tornado with a high base storm here, never. The LCLs have to be low. But things like that, and he's got it down to 30. We have a better understanding of these QLCS tornadoes, and quite frankly, our better understanding is this: we can't issue warnings for them. We can't. You know, you worry about the POD suffering. The POD is probability of detection. You want to keep that high and the false alarm ratio low. And they were so worried about that POD. We can't warn for these things. A tornado gets down, a warning goes out. By the time the warning goes out, the tornado's gone. With these squall line tornadoes, these QLCS events in the middle of the night, and again, the high base storms, we've cut that out. Dual polarization radar is here. Man, oh man, you talk about science. We never, ever thought correlation coefficient would be that useful. But wow. What happens when the radar beam comes back, it puts the returns in a bin, and if it sees echoes that don't correlate with other echoes, it lowers the correlation coefficient, and you see a CC drop. That means it's not a hydrometeor. It's not. It's a non-meteorological target. It's part of a roof. It's somebody's window. It's a dead animal. And we can see debris being lofted on radar now. A TDS, a tornado debris signature, that dual polarization data changed everything. And we have better input with those in the field that are actually looking at this. So I'm proud to announce that we have done so much better with getting that FAR down. But the main message I've got, a reminder, everybody in this room is a communicator. You've got a phone. You can communicate. And I want to encourage everybody in here, and I know I've been talking more about severe weather today, but we're all in this together, and you could be an extension of what we do. There's a good chance, even if you're into total hydrology, you're a weather dweeb, a weenie, a nerd, a dork. You're in here for some reason, okay? You can help us whenever we have tornadoes flying around here. You've got people that rely on sirens, people that don't pay attention, but by making a phone call or a text, you can be a hero in the process. The social scientists have told us the greatest resource you're missing, it's people that pay attention, and they can be an extension of what you do. So my call to action today, it's for all of you to please consider being an extension of what we do. We can't do it all on our own, and we all know that we're going to have other high-impact flood events. We're going to have other high-impact tornado events, and we all have to be better. So thanks in advance for your help. Thank you guys for letting me come. Y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. All right, thanks, everybody.